I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
Sometimes that's all you have. Like, it's all you have to connect, right? Nighttime, after the kids are in bed, you have to do it. You know? I mean,
you're not allowed to say no.
Because it's like pizza. It's still pretty good. Even bad pizza is still pretty good, right?
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm excited to announce that we've been asked to create a pilot radio program based on our podcast. Now, I can't disclose the details yet, but I can tell you that it's going to involve a listener call-in segment. And we're looking for questions from listeners about their relationships. So if you have a question or if you'd like some advice about your relationship, give us a call and leave a message at 415-483-5112. We'll get right back to you, and we might even be able to include you in our pilot. Once again, that number is 415-483-5112. And I'll include that number in our show notes as well. Now on to the show. We all hold an ideal vision of our future selves. That's just one of the truths about being human. For me, when I was in my 20s at least, it always involved something about a terribly sophisticated flat in Paris, a French actress, and lots of Italian suits in my closet. Instead, well, life has a little more to do with a black dog, a very American photographer, and lots of super cozy flannels. And you know, I just couldn't be happier. And that's the point of today's show. Our interview at the core is about coming to terms with what we really want as expressed by what we actually create for ourselves. Today's couple, Greg and Rachel, have a life they love, but it's one that Rachel, at least, never would have planned in her 20s. And it's perfect. I'll let them tell you the details. So with that, let's go to our interview with Rachel and Greg.
We met at a bar. I picked her up at a bar.
He didn't. He says that, but it was a networking event that he arranged. It turns out to meet women, but I didn't know that at the time. And it was a networking event with journalists and PR people, and he was a PR person, and I was a journalist. And
my boss at the time owned a restaurant, and he told me, sure, knock yourself out, use the bar in my restaurant. And that's where we were.
Oh, that's a great setup. Because then you're the guy who brings everybody together.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you get to meet everybody and be the man.
And we met on the first event, and the event lasted 3 months. It was a monthly
There were three
thing.
of them.
Three
total.
It was a networking event, so we did it monthly.
Oh.
And it lasted 3 months, and we stopped doing them.
Because you met her.
He had met her.
Basically, yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Exactly.
Out of here.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
So it sounds like the love sparked pretty quick.
You know, so he says, he beckoned me from across the room. I'm not kidding. And I thought, you know, like, why is he calling me over? He and his friend were like, come here, come here. And I was like, what's the deal? Like, do I have toilet paper on my foot? Like, what's going on? Like, it was urgent, right? And they were standing near the door, and I thought maybe there was something outside. And I thought, why are they calling me over? This is so weird. And then I get over there, and they just say, hi. And he introduces himself, and I was very irritated. I was like, wow, who do you think you are? You know, you beckoned me from across the room. Like, why didn't you come over to me? Right. You know? And so I just laid into him. I just started, you know, bantering with him, but, you know, really just making fun of him. And, oh, you're a flack. I hate flacks. And nice suit. And I rubbed his lapel. And I was just being nasty, you know, jokingly, you know, not just full on nasty, but he was amused and he was laughing at my jokes, which never happened. Men usually were just scared away. So he just looked me in the eyes, and his confidence did actually kind of get me, but we became friends after that. So
we became friends, and then we started dating, and she used to tell me, don't get too attached because I'm not going to stick around very long. And I kept telling her, you'll come around.
He would say that.
You'll come around. And she came around.
But did you know?
Oh, I knew right away.
You knew?
Oh, yeah.
Right away, as in that first day?
Yeah.
Wow.
I knew. And then, in fact, we left there, and I told my buddy, I said, she's the one. I've got to figure figure out how to get to Rachel Lang.
Holy.
And so we started hanging out. Was like 2 months.
Yeah.
And then we started dating.
Mutual friends. We would hang out with mutual friends, but we weren't dating. But I did like him. I was attracted to him, and I did, I just didn't want to like him because he, he wasn't my type. He wasn't who I imagined myself with. I always dated guys from other countries or very bookish and intellectual, and he just was not my type, So I
I'm
just
not
thought,
bookish nor intellectual.
but we had so much fun together. Yeah. Our very first date, it was a kind of non-date, and I think we argued over, he
circus.
worked for Ringling Brothers, that was one of his clients, and we argued over elephants in captivity and whether it's inherently cruel, and I was, arguing that it was, and at the end of the day, I went home and I cried. I was like, God, this is so awful. I hate being single. It's horrible. I had just broken up with this boyfriend of 3 years, and so he was kind of my first person out, and I was like, this is not going to work.
Because the argument just felt like we
yeah,
can't ever,
just-
how could we connect?
I can't, I can't deal with these San Diego guys who are so conventional and
Yeah.
And he seemed very conventional to me,
Yeah.
and that's what I didn't. I mean, it was like everything I didn't want.
Yeah.
It's a conventional life with like 2 kids and a dog. If you look around, it's exactly what I have.
As you point to the dog.
And I
yes.
actually told him that on our first real date where we actually smooched. I said, the last thing I want in the world is to live in a house and have a backyard and have barbecues in my backyard. Like we were walking through the barbecue section of Sears,
Random.
And I
Random
was
one.
excited
And
by
he
the
was like-
barbecues.
He was like, that's exactly what I want in my life. And I was like, oh, God, yuck. That's why I was like, this is a summer fling, dude. This is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And, but my family seemed to know better. And he wanted me to meet his family. And then when I met his family, everything changed.
What?
Like I was like, oh, you are one of my people.
How did you know? What?
Because his family was like strange and liberal like mine. And I never
grew up in
told
Orange
me
County,
about that.
California.
Where it's conservative.
Right, and I didn't tell her much about my family because, quite frankly, I was embarrassed of my family. Because they're weird. They're an odd bunch, like everybody's family.
I hope they're listening to this show.
They're
yeah.
wonderful.
They're great people, but they're an odd bunch. So I just didn't talk about them a lot. So she assumed that I was conservative Orange County from a conservative Orange County family. And then when she finally went up and met them, she was like, oh, wait, why didn't you ever tell me about these people?
Oh
They're
my God,
great.
they're awesome. Loved them. His mom was this little woman from Queens, and she was so adorable, and she was so loving and sweet, and his dad was, they were all just wonderful people, and they had, extended family, like the friend, the friend who was almost like a brother to Greg growing up, and all these people, and I'm like, geez, if I had known this about you, you would have completely colored my perception.
Yeah. Well, okay, and so then at that point, then you thought maybe I could be in for the long
Maybe
haul.
I could like this guy. And literally, 3 weeks later, I think he asked me to marry him.
We
Oh
had
my
dated
God, that's so fast.
4 months. We dated 4 months when I
months.
asked her.
That's
And I knew, like, I look back now, I'm like, why would I do that? But I knew, I had no doubt in my mind that she was going to say yes.
And my family loved him, and he loved my family. And it was like I just let go of all this preconceived notion of what I was supposed to be with. And then I was thinking, well, maybe someday we'll get married. Maybe. And then a few weeks later, he asked me, and I was like, too soon.
What did you say?
She said, okay.
I said, oh, okay. But when I saw him go to get down on his knee, and I saw it coming, it was like my life flashing through my eyes,
my God.
before my eyes. And I was like, oh my God, stall. So I just said, are you going to give me money? And he looked at me like, what are you talking
Oh my God.
What are you talking about?
My head is in my forehead. My hand is in my forehead. Are you going to give me money?
Are you going to give
Because I
me?
reached into my
Well, he
pocket.
kind
I
of
wanted
did.
to-
You gave her a ring.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to stall. I just wanted it not to happen because I was like, it's too fast. I don't know. I did know. I had thought about it, but I just didn't. I was like, what's wrong with him that he wants to lock me in? That's seriously what the kind of thing I thought. Because I had
Yeah, there
just
must
gotten out
be
of a
something I had-
3-year relationship where I got along with the person great. We were really, really happy and compatible, and we got along well. It just like he just wasn't ready to go to the next level, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to stay in a stagnant relationship, so I got out of it, even though I wasn't super unhappy. I was unhappy with the trajectory of the relationship, but I wasn't unhappy with the person. And in retrospect, I mean, everybody made out in this. He's now happily married, and I never had any bitter, harsh feelings toward him or anything. And that's why when I went on a date with him, I was like, oh, I fit so well with this other person. Why am I not with him anymore?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Now I realize, of course, obviously in time, I got along with him so easily, and when I stopped resisting it, we just had fun all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still do.
When you stopped resisting it,
Right.
you had fun all the
Right.
time. Okay, there's so much I want to unpack in the story.
Well, real quick to that point, it took her friend, actually, her best friend, they were talking about it, and she was talking about me, and she told her, he's really not my type, and her friend told her, well, how's that been working for you? And that kind of opened her eyes a little
And I was like, no, she has a point.
She was making the point that going after your type never worked out.
Yeah.
So give something else a try.
Exactly.
You had a lot of people rooting for you, Greg.
He did.
I did.
He did.
Okay, so all right, from Greg, from your perspective, what I want to know is how did you know? How old were you?
29?
28.
28, 29.
That is, well, for old-timey marriages, that's old. But for our modern coastal urban marriage, that's early.
So,
Yeah.
for me, it sort of runs in my family. So I'll give you the long story short. My parents met on a blind date. My dad had a previous wife and 3 kids, and his wife passed away. And so he's a widower with 3 young kids, and he was introduced to my mom on a blind date. 2 weeks later, they got engaged.
Oh, jeez.
And they've been married now 47, 48 years, and had 2 more kids along the way. My sister met her husband video dating in Denver.
Remember those video dates?
A matter of months, they were engaged, married. So
I didn't know video dates ever worked for anybody. I'm happy to know.
She was at one point the most popular woman in Denver. But it just, for some reason, it's worked in my family. These short things, and I dated a lot, and I was had a lot of people that I liked and didn't like, and experiences, and just something clicked. I just knew.
So there must be something that your family's doing right. Because everybody has passion at the beginning. Yeah. Everybody thinks their partner's perfect when they first get together, right? It's dopamine. It's just in your blood, and the serotonin. You're just in love. And then you start seeing the things that annoy you. And then challenges happen because we're human. So...
just lucky, I guess.
No, I think it's
skill.
I think it's more. You make a decision.
Yeah.
That you're going to be with this person. You made it very early on, obviously. And that's sort of the attitude that I have is like, this is for real and this is forever, and you just make it work, right?
Yeah.
But if you have the attitude that you're going to make it work all the time, if that's your constant attitude of like can do in this relationship, then you just keep plugging along, you keep making it work, and you don't sit and analyze like, how am I unhappy? And
Well, but I think there's more to that. When I say lucky, I mean you were the right person.
Yeah.
In college, I had a long-term girlfriend who I was sure I was going to marry, and she lived in Brazil, and she would come back, and now that I look back, she was a pain in the neck, and it would have been awful. But when I met Rachel, I knew there was something. She's smart and funny and independent and didn't need me, and we like being with each other, but we also like our alone time, like all that stuff. I could see it right away. And so I knew she's the right one.
But you knew from the moment one. From moment one.
Yeah.
What did that feel? What does that feel like?
I don't know. It's hard to explain because I mean at the time, and the whole beckoning her over, I was a little confident at the time. I was dating several women at that time. Like I was in a good groove.
He was feeling his own.
I had this older banker I was dating, right? The banker,
Right.
You remember the banker? And at that point, like I stopped thinking about all of them, and like she was the only one I was focused on, and I was like, the rest I kind of let fall by the wayside because I was just focusing all my attention on Rachel.
Yeah.
I mean, that was more. It was, it was an obsession.
Nice.
But I mean, that's really what it was. It was like that. She was all I could think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you just say ah? Okay. Well, so I'm curious, when she was pushing you away at first, when she was being kind of mean because she was annoyed that you had beckoned her.
Yeah.
Did that spark some respect? Did that influence it?
Probably a little bit. I saw it as playful. The way I looked at it was
Thought she was
flirting.
He was feeling his OC.
Yeah.
So he's like,
You know,
she loves it. She's flirting with me.
And as time went on, and the more I learned about her, Rachel kind of had a reputation as a hard ass, and like guys were scared of her, women were scared of her. She was intimidating because she was smart and independent and stood her ground and stood up to people, and and so when she would do that to other guys, they would turn around and walk away. But I didn't know that at the time. I was feeling confident, and I thought she was flirting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of,
And does she still do that?
yeah.
And do you still feel confident?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it still feel like flirting, or does it ever piss you off?
No, and what I always told myself, the woman that I wanted to marry needed to be a strong, independent woman, someone that had her own thing going on, didn't need me. I always wanted to be with someone like that, smart and funny, and she had all that, and she has all that. She's got a career of her own, and all those things that I thought of would be the person that I would marry.
Yeah. Okay, so Rachel, then the barbecues were a thing for him.
Yeah, he was like, that's exactly what I want. And again, I'm like, God, this guy is so conventional. Like, what is wrong with him? But I just liked him. And frankly, it was that he seemed to like that I, had intellectual pursuits and a job, and he pushed me to do better in my job. He wasn't, some men will try to hold you down or, discourage you from going for it. And he was always like, come on, do it. And he was also, he laughed at my jokes, not many people do that. He laughed at my jokes. He was just fun. We just had fun together. It was like hanging out with him. It was no stress.
So then, do you think you have a conventional life now? How would you define it?
I mean, I think if I were looking at myself 20 years ago, I would say, well, you would never end up like that. That couldn't possibly be your future. Because look at you. You've got a business, and you're like, I was going to be a National Geographic writer living in rural Africa. That's where I pictured myself, alone, But realistically, it's not really conventional. It's I do a lot of fun stuff. I don't sit around. I mean, we're not sitting at home every night, just sort of watching TV, or at least I'm not.
Yeah, no, I think we joke about it. This neighborhood, Point Loma, it's there's a joiner mentality. There's Point Loma things that you do. If you join this, and your kid has to be a junior life, and we kind of laugh about that. We're the outsiders in this neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
We do some of it. Our kids play Little League and that, but there's a line that we don't cross. So we keep kind of that outsider piece. So we're not totally suburbia.
Right.
2 kids and a dog.
So it kind of sounds like you synced up on this stuff.
Right.
There's this question that you see in the academic literature on relationships all the time, which is, do couples have to be a match in every way in order to be successful? The answer is always no.
No, definitely not.
But you started out as definitely not matches.
Right.
On many, many levels.
Right. Like of what we pictured for our future. I mean, both of us, kind of wanted kids. I did at that point want to get married and have kids. That was part of my life plan at that point. But I guess the idea that I would, have a house and, and that I would look forward to barbecues just didn't even occur to me. And then, of course, I realized, well, how do I know? I've never had a barbecue.
How do I even
You
know?
know? And then I had a barbecue, and I was like, "This is awesome!
But you know what?
Barbecues are the best."
I think part
I
of it
just never
also,
done the stuff that I look down on.
you look at your upbringing too, and I think both of us, we came from what I would not call conventional households. Both her parents had careers and were traveling and were always away, and my family, both parents worked, and everybody was coming and going. There was never stability in a stable conventional household, and I think that part of our lives, I think we both, to some degree, wanted.
Like I had a lot of stability, my dad, but my dad was the main person, the main caretaker, and he really raised my sisters and me, and like what a mother would have been in those days. He wasn't a house husband, but but he was home at a regular hour. He made us dinner every night. My mom was an attorney, and she was doing the backwards and high heels thing. She had to work twice as hard to get half as much, and so she worked all the time. So it was very much it was just different than everybody else's household. So it wasn't unstable in any way for us, but it was just different.
Yeah.
And then the parties that my parents would have, it would be like a bunch of lawyers, and God knows what was going on in the bedrooms. I mean, later in retrospect, I know that they were smoking pot. They were like I didn't realize it at the time, but it was just they would drink really heavily, and it was just different. It wasn't like backyard barbecue.
Right,
with
right,
like
right.
the dog running around nipping at people's heels, and just that seemed not fun to me.
Right.
Like I wanted to have the kind of like wild boozy cocktail parties with great intellectual discussions that my parents were having, which we have combined the two. I mean, that's what we have.
Yeah.
We
Well,
do have that.
okay. So that was gonna be
Yeah.
my question. How, where do you link up and where do you not link up now?
So, and I actually think it's not so much not linking up; it's we kind of play off each other. I'm much more introverted. Maybe not introverted isn't the right word. I could sit home and do nothing on a weekend and have no problem. She is compulsively social. She has to be around people. And so sometimes I go along, and sometimes it's, we go out together, and sometimes we go out separately, and sometimes she goes out and I stay home. And I think that's, of all the things, that's what makes us work, is that we both understand.
Like I don't have to. He doesn't have to be with me. If he doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to drag him. And he feels like if she doesn't want to be home, I'm not going to be like, you've got to stay home.
You find the balance. There comes a early on. There was a time early in our marriage where she was out all the time, and I was like, "You're never here. I got married to be with you." And over time we found the balance, and we entertain a lot. We have a lot of people over all the time, but sometimes she'll, "Hey, I'm going to brunch with the girls." I'm like, knock yourself out. I'm good watching football. And I think that's really how we find that balance. It's not where we don't sync up. It's just we have different interests, and we both respect that we have different interests.
Yeah.
And I have friends that I would never, like they're my high school friends or whatever, and he has nothing in common with them, and they don't really have anything to talk about. So I just don't even, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go do stuff with them. And he has, golfs. I don't golf, so we have things that are exclusive to ourselves. And then we have a couple friends that we would never go without the other one.
So this is all activities.
Yeah.
Is there anything more fundamental where you don't, or where you play off each other, don't match up?
I don't think so. I think
We have different interests, but we get along,
Yeah, and I think just our way, our thinking about family, our thinking about raising kids, and we both have the same. Our parents are pretty similar, actually, and the way that their political views, their religious views, their views on how we were raised, and so I think we both, we talk about things, how we're going to discipline the kids before we go and discipline the kids.
Right.
We have the same ideas about
Yeah.
how we do things.
Oh, that's really good. So that sounds like a really important parenting tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to discuss it first and discuss your ideas of things. And, I'm sure sometimes I think he thinks I swear too much in front of the kids, and sometimes I think he yells at the kids too much. And I'm sure that, we don't agree with each other 100% every time. But when there are big decisions to be made or anything like that, we typically do them together.
Yeah. But there's also, I think we're on the same wavelength. So, good example, my son was playing Little League and I was coaching, and he struck out. and he was young. He was first season, I think. And he went back to the dugout and he started crying. And I was coaching first base, so I couldn't go over and say anything to him. And Rachel walked down from the bleachers and walked up behind him. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, she's gonna go coddle him. I don't agree with that. You need to learn how to win with dignity and lose with dignity and all that. And instead of coddling him, she walked up behind him and said, "Suck it up." And to me, it was perfect because we were on the same wavelength. That's exactly what I would have said.
It wasn't that he was mad at himself. He was trying to blame it on other people.
Yeah.
And just sort of being, it's like you just got to deal with. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you don't do well. You just suck it up and move on and do well next time. And if you don't do well next time, then try again. And
But it's just an example of we're on the same wavelength with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's not. We didn't have a discussion about that. It was just
Okay, but now it can't be all honey and rose petals. So what do you fight about?
what do we fight about? She's messy.
we don't really fight about it. You just you learn to just.
Sometimes I'm lazy. No, we don't. I mean, honestly, we don't fight
weird.
a lot.
We don't fight
we
much.
bicker sometimes about stupid stuff like the ukulele.
Oh yeah, so tell that story because that was before we were recording.
Okay, so our son was being a pill tonight. He's 13, and he's become a teenager overnight. And he was being a jerk about something.
Badgering us.
And so Rachel was upset with him while trying to cook dinner and get them out of the house. And I was sitting on the couch playing the ukulele, trying to relax after a long day at the office. And she just snapped at me. She's like, "You stop playing the ukulele."
Stop playing the damn ukulele.
And so
What I meant really was like, get over here and help me. Drop that and come over here. I also had a long day at the office. Like, get over here. And But I mean, occasionally we fight, and and it's really occasional. And when we do, like when I'm really mad at him, like my hatred for him is like the energy of 1,000 suns.
Yes.
Like it burns so bright, but it's so fast. And then I can't stay mad, and he can't stay mad. And both of us are always, I think, I don't know about you, but the first thing I'm thinking after the initial hot flash of of searing anger is like, okay, how do we make this better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in 15 years, I think we've had two really big blow-ups.
Yeah.
One time she told me to get out of the house. And I went for a drive, and I was on the road, and I said, "Where am I going to go?" And I turned around and came home.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
By the time you got home.
Yeah, I was angry at him, but I didn't really want him to leave.
So
I just wanted him to leave my presence at that moment.
Yeah. So it's really, we don't argue a lot, it's bickering.
The flaring sun moments.
Yeah.
It's a great description. So there seem to be these different styles of anger, when it comes out, because it's just there. It's a human thing. You got the anger.
Yeah.
And then there's people like you who when it's going to flare, it's going to flare, and then it just dies right after.
Right.
Is that how you?
Yeah, basically. And I let him have it. I say, because I'm angry because I feel aggrieved, obviously. I think I think he's done something wrong, or he's looking at something the wrong way, or not giving me the benefit of the doubt. And then I just let out my anger, and he acts like I'm wrong. But then later, usually, each of us realizes that the other was a little bit right. Usually me a lot right.
Wow. Yes, dear.
And then, so the two follow-up questions to that, Greg, what is your anger style when it comes out?
I think I'm much more, with her, I think I'm much more passive-aggressive. I get quiet. I stop talking. I seethe. I let it boil up a little bit. But then, same thing. Then eventually we have a little back and forth, or we talk about it or whatever, and then it's over.
Yeah. And when it seethes, what are you doing? Are you not talking to her? Are you leaving the room? Are you not looking at her?
A little of everything. Yeah. It depends. Sometimes I'll just sit on the couch and watch TV and not look her way.
It just feels like,
Is that what you're doing?
It just depends.
And then when he's doing that, what's your reaction to him being that way?
If I actually recognize that he's not just sitting on the couch watching TV, which eventually it all comes to a head, right? But it's usually, like, why don't you just say these things, when they happen? Just say it. And I always think he's exaggerating. It's you always whatever. You always do this.
Yeah.
You always do that, and that always is like,
In reality, most of the
disagree,
time, I'm strategizing in my head about how to get out of this.
Like how to get out of the dispute? 'cause
How
the
to
dispute is
twist
so
this
uncomfortable?
conversation in a way that we can both win this conversation. Like it's
That's
exactly
what we
she
do for
said.
a living. See,
Yeah.
we're trying to always make people win, even when they're losing. Like if you, well, we both do PR. If you have a client who's losing, you're like, how can we talk about this as if it's a win, right? That's our
Right,
job. So,
Right.
I mean, admittedly, I'm moody. I get in moods and
gets
sometimes
grumpy.
I get grumpy, and sometimes maybe I'll say something or accuse her of something, or whatever. And that's when she gets mad at me, and it's that kind of little just sniping at each other. And so that's when, she'll say something, and I'll sit and I think about, okay, I just screwed that up. How do I get out of this without totally throwing in the white?
but
putting
then
up the white
honestly,
flag.
if he just says, I'm sorry, I was being a dick. I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
So some couples have the reaction like so when one of the partners gets moody and gets snipey or withdraws, some couples the other partner feels really hurt or abandoned by that, and then then anger is coming or upset or frustration is coming from both directions. Do you have that
For me,
reaction?
I don't usually get hurt because I just feel this like that there's a fundamental base of love. And that even when he's mad at me, it's probably coming from a place of like, he needed me, he needed my attention, he needed me to, take something off his plate or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't get hurt. I get disgusted by it's a weird thing to say. I get irritated by the fact that he's not giving me a break and not seeing, that I am also over here doing something and working really hard at something that I care about.
Yeah.
So that's more of what it is. Like, come on, man, don't you see I'm over here also working really hard?
Yeah.
That's why I'm not taking it off your plate. But I feel like he's not being understanding of me. But I'm sure he feels exactly the same way. So.
I think one of the things that both of us, I think we've been conscious of and we've been very good at, and the reason our little spats haven't escalated, quite frankly, is the language that we use with each other. I think we both, even when we're angry, we're respectful of each other. We don't call each other names. We don't get into, really bad places that you can't come back from.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have friends who have gone through issues, and my parents were yellers. They used to.
Mine too.
I mean, they've been married for 40
that.
whatever years, but they were yellers, and they would
And you both hated that about your parents.
hated it. I mean, you could hear my
it's like,
parents
why
down
would
the
you
street.
talk to each other like that?
Yeah,
It's terrible.
And so I just we both, and we've talked about it, you just you're respectful. You can disagree and you can argue and be mad at each other, but you don't disrespect each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of why it hasn't gone to a different level.
When the disrespect comes out, what do you think is with or without you guys, just in general, when that disrespectful way of communicating bursts its way forth? Nobody wants to do that, right? I think, but it does burst forth sometimes.
Yeah.
Why? Like, do you have any sense of where that comes from?
I don't know. Because I'm not like that way to I'm rarely disrespectful to anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, people may feel like, oh, she didn't give me the deference I was due or something like that, but I never want to be abusive, Even when I get frustrated with somebody who's a customer service person and being a jerk, or, like when you're on the phone with the cable company and they won't let you off the phone when you're trying to cancel something, or what, those kinds of situations where, even when I'm super, super frustrated, I always am saying to the person, I understand this is not your policy and you didn't make it, but I really need you to impress upon your boss that, like I try to make it like, this isn't about you. I don't want to hurt your feelings. And I don't want to put you in a bad position and make you, go home crying because, so I don't know. I think that there's a general just dislike of being abusive.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
why.
know. Same thing. Growing up, I mean, I have memories of friends who I remember them arguing with their parents about something and being in the house while an argument was going on and thinking, God, I can't believe he's talking to his mom that way. I've just never been that way.
But you saw your parents doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time,
It was like a a lesson. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, my parents always used to tell because there was always love. They're attached at the hip. They are meant for each other, and they used to tell me that's the way we communicate. If we didn't communicate, things would be really bad. We would be divorced, but that's just how we communicate. We yell at each other,
Yeah.
and that was their style, and it's worked for them for 47, 48 years. It's just not my style, but there was always that underlying of love and respect. My parents respect each other, even though, they called each other names, and they were both from New York, and my dad's from Brooklyn, my mom's from Queens. That's just kind of how they talked on the streets of Brooklyn, I guess. I don't know.
My parents were married for I think 40 years, almost 41 when my mom died, and they did the same thing. They would yell, and both of us have memories of being with our siblings as, when they were having one of these, screaming at each other kind of fights and saying, who do you want to go live with if they get divorced and that kind of thing, like convinced that this was the end because they couldn't possibly come back from this, from yelling at each other that way. And our kids, if we even like remotely bicker, like the mildest bickering, they're like, please don't get a divorce. Like, oh my God.
You're like, gee, you guys, come on. You got to
have
have
no
Wow,
idea.
come on. So sometimes I wonder, like, are we doing them a disservice? I mean, not like we should fight
not,
for their sake, but what are they going to walk into in relationships? Hopefully it just means that they'll just not be conflict oriented.
Well, I was just reading last night. I love the work of John Gottman. Do you know that guy? He's a marriage researcher
okay.
that got made very famous by Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay.
And then everybody writes about him. He's like the guy that everybody wants to write about because he's been doing this research for so many years.
Okay.
And he has conflict styles broken down into 4 categories, and I'm not going to be able to remember what they are.
Okay.
But basically, there's the people who fight loud and fast, and they fight full out,
Yeah.
but it doesn't bother them that
Right.
they're doing that. That's just how they communicate,
Right.
like your parents. And
Right.
in Gottman's view, they're very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the couples that I think you guys are probably in this category where there's conflict, but they always talk about it in ways that are proactive.
Right.
So you get the conflict
Kind of head it
out.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell me if this is right. You get to get it out,
Mm-hmm.
but you do it in a way that's supportive of one another.
Yeah.
think
You're
so.
you have your attention on that.
For the most part, yeah.
And then there's a third couple that's very healthy also. I can't remember what they are. And then there's the conflict avoidant couples.
Yeah.
And in his view, they're the ones who are usually in the most trouble because
Right.
they don't develop any depth because they're just constantly doing whatever they can to avoid the conflict. Don't
Right.
fight. Everything's nice. Everything's fine. And they never get to create any
Yeah.
intimacy.
Right.
And I've seen that a lot of times, these couples who pretend to be perfect, but actually there's no there.
Right.
There's no there, as they say.
And then one day they're getting a divorce, and you're like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
They seemed so happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I've always had this view that as long as you get it out, I mean, it's nice if you guys sync up, you guys both have the same style.
Yeah.
But as long as you get it out and you don't make it mean too much that it came out, you're pretty
Right.
good.
Right.
That's my unacademic view of it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that'll be what your kids take away from it. How do they seem to be with conflict?
They seem to be pretty okay with it, I think. I mean, they sure fight with each other.
Yeah.
And still love each other after.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
I should probably stop telling them to stop fighting. They just bicker endlessly, though. I mean, it'll just be
No.
over and over, circular. So
I mean, they're pretty good kids. They don't get in a lot of conflicts with their friends. Ben, actually, our son, takes things really personal. When he gets in issues
So
with his
personally.
friends, he takes them so personally. Like, he writes them all off, and I keep telling him, like, we have to have long talks with them.
done. I'm never
You
speaking
really
to them
want to
again.
have
They're
no
jerks.
friends now. You're going to have no more friends if you write them all off. You go okay with that, you know. And
over something really minor,
Oh,
usually.
so
he's
this
very
is-
dramatic about it.
That's a great workshop. Where does it come from? Why does he care?
I don't know. He's a really intense kid. He's really
He has
smart.
very high expectations of other people. He thinks, I think, that he goes above and beyond for other people, and he expects his friends to do the same. And his friends are sort of like, yeah, they're boys, you know.
Yeah. He's mature, so last year he had a crush and he told his buddies, and they're 12-year-old boys, and they
busted
teased
his
him
chops about it.
mercilessly, and he got so upset about it.
Poor kid.
And he didn't understand, and I had to explain, they're not where you are yet emotionally. You're a little ahead. You don't find that funny, and you gotta understand that they're still kids. And so it took him a while, and then I had to help him negotiate and like pull one of them aside and get him to be on your side. It was like a whole ordeal about this.
You gave him management techniques.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. And it all worked out.
Get one on your side, and then you can pull the rest along.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah,
So, how old are the kids?
13 and 10.
It's 13 and 10. So that meant the one was 3 when the other one was born.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, for your guys' style of relationship, you must have both been working, and then you had 2 little kids. Those are hard years.
Yeah, they were really hard.
What was that like?
Like in retrospect, I was like, wow, man, that was hard. We got through it. But when you're going through it, right, you're just like one foot in front of the other. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm always very sympathetic and sensitive to friends who are in that period where like they flake on you and they do all these things and you're like, I get it, man. I get it. Because it's really your kids when they are being monsters. That is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But it was always us against them. It was never, like, I don't think either of us ever felt like, I think in a lot of couples, the mom becomes the default parent, or maybe it's the dad, but usually it's the mom. They become the default parent, and then they become, there becomes resentment over, I do so much more, and you're not doing anything, and the dad always has to be the hard one, and the mom's the soft one the kids all run to, and there becomes this like dynamic because one parent is so much more present in the kids' lives or does so much more for them. So that started to develop with us because that's natural when a baby's home with you and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized like that's not going to work.
It's not going to work for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did you say?
I don't know how it came to be that.
Well, we
that he just picked up more.
I mean, it started with just bottle feeding in the middle of the night. We would take turns, your night, my night, it's your night, it's my night. And I mean, it started there. That was actually one of the only big fights we had was she was out all day one day and left me home with the kids, and she was out kind of hanging out with the girls, and she needed her day.
My mom, but yeah, my mom and some of my mom's friends, and
then she came home, and I had spent the day with a toddler and an infant, and she just walked past me and went to sleep. And I was kind of like, whoa, and I got these 2 kids all over me. I'm like, wait a second, and that kind of blew up into a thing, and then we got into a whole thing about I do so much and you do, and I think I understood what she was saying. I was like, yeah, okay, you do a lot, and I should probably help out a little bit more. And but I think, we've just shared stuff. I've never seen it as, well, that's a woman's job. You need to do that, and I do this. Our roles were just, I did what I had to do. I changed diapers, and I took the kids to daycare, and you kind of get in a rhythm of trading off. We call it tag team parenting because we both work. It's you need to pick them up, and then I'll be home at this time.
Working all the logistics, and there would be times when he would pull up in front of the house, and I would run out, and we were just basically he's running in, I'm running out because I had to go to like a night event or something, and he had just gotten home from work, and so it was basically like, hey, nice to see you, bye.
Our lives are just too busy to not share responsibilities.
How did you keep the intimacy going during that time?
You just do. It's like that's one thing that honestly I think every marriage you're not gonna. Sometimes that's all you have. Like it's all you have to connect, right? Like sex, nighttime after the kids are in bed, you have to do it. I mean, it happens.
About the rule. We're gonna get into this
on a podcast. No, just kidding.
Anything you want.
There's kind of a like nobody says no kind of thing.
You're not allowed to say no.
Because in the end,
yeah.
I mean, if it's it's like pizza. It's still pretty good.
It's still
even bad pizza is still pretty good, right? So, so you just kind of have that thing where that's kind of the basic rule. I mean, truly, I'm not going to like wake them up and be like, you can't say no, or vice versa. But I mean, that's kind of the if one person's feeling it, then the other person just goes along, and everybody ends up happy. It's not like one person's like, oh, this is miserable. It's never like that, right?
So wow. Do you think couples should do that?
It's
worked
worked for us.
Our friends kind of think that they don't believe it.
Yeah.
And they think we're a little bit crazy or lying. But
It totally works. It's definitely like you gotta just keep it up. People get grumpy and it's a good way to connect, and you just, I think it makes all the difference in terms of, everybody's a little happier. Everybody's a little, if you didn't have any other chance because your kids are all over you and you're given over to your kids all the time when they're awake, and then you get into bed and then you have each other.
Yeah.
It is really important.
I'm really curious about those moments when you just must be feeling not sexual at all. You've been working your ass off. You're covered in baby vomit. You're exhausted. You come home. You feel like a zombie. All you want to do is crash. And your husband says, "Let's make love." And you're like, "Okay, we have this rule. I'm going to do it." Where do you go to find? How do you thaw out enough to be able to be there?
I don't think I ever was that. I was never in that place where I felt that, against it.
Okay, so then the same question for you, Greg. There's those times you're a guy. Sometimes you just can't get it up. This is the truth about being a human. Like, why?
sometimes you just can't. There's a difference between won't and can't.
Right. Yeah.
You're out on the. Sometimes we go. We go out and we have some drinks, and you come home and. We're honest. Sorry, this is just not working.
This is not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not very often.
Yeah, and then that's not a thing. But then you don't feel like, well, because it's
Well, honestly,
I don't think there's any guy in the world who's never had that experience.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
And there's so much shame around it. Jesus, there's just so much. We just have all this shame because I'm not
But
a man
that's
now. But that's what it means to be a man.
right. But the partner that you're with, right? They can make that worse or better, right?
Yeah.
And if it's just a thing and it happens, and
sometimes, and for me, it's not even about the physical thing. It's about like you're still partners who are having intimacy. Like you still want to create intimacy, right? Because that's what essentially what you're saying is that's what it's all about. It's about coming together. So when you're not feeling it or you're not feeling it, it's not, it sounds to me like it's not like pain
no,
to make yourself do it.
right.
It's like relax, get out of your head and just come together.
Right. And I think the other person can kind of sense it's like they're really not in the mood, right? They're not. This isn't happening for them today. So that's kind of a turn off. So you're also not like approaching that person when people put off a vibe, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like he's coming at me when it's clear that I am just like tired and not in the mood, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty compatible
you
in
guys
that
are.
regard as well.
I think in every way, but yes.
Yeah, no, and that's why I say, when I said in the beginning, lucky. We're very compatible in most regards.
You guys have created a great life, a great normal life.
So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just really appreciate having me into it. Thanks for the window into your marriage. Okay, so I like to end with a game of this or that.
Ooh,
Okay.
Okay, so I'll ask a this or that, and then I'll point to one of you, and then the other person will answer also.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll start easy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. It's just tougher. Why coffee?
It's just stronger.
Tea actually
Gets the
makes me a
job
little
done.
sick to my stomach. But I just love coffee.
Okay, that's easier.
Earthy.
All right, earthy. All right. Would you rather be able to shift shapes or be a mind reader?
Oh, mind reader.
Mind reader, yeah.
Why?
That's like the holy grail of superpowers. That'd be so awesome.
You think that's the holy grail of superpowers?
It would also probably be disturbing, but
Because I know what we're thinking all the time. If I were someone else, I would
you
want
could
to know
walk
what I
down
was
the
thinking.
street and But you'd probably be really dismayed by what people
Probably
thought.
mostly because of just the way we gossip about people. It's
You just want entertainment. Basically, what
Yeah,
you're
it's-
saying is you just want an alternative to Netflix.
absolutely.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay. Zombies or vampires?
Vampires. Vampires are sexy.
Yeah.
Neither one. I'm not a monster guy. If I had to pick one, zombies. I don't know.
Now, are you answering that in terms of like if I had to survive it or if I had to be one?
Ooh. If I had to be one, it would be a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that way. I don't know. I was answering it more as what am I interested in. Yeah, be one or survive one. It'd probably be vampire.
Either way.
Either way.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They only come out at night, You don't have to deal with them half the day.
The world doesn't end with vampires. It's not apocalypse.
Right.
It's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You manage them.
Eternity begins with vampires if you think about it.
Right.
So
Okay. Let's see. I want to come up with a dark one for you guys.
Right up our alley.
Would you rather have early onset dementia or terminal cancer?
terminal cancer. Like no question. No question.
Yeah.
I'd rather have terminal cancer than late onset dementia too.
Terminal cancer.
Or ever
Why?
dementia.
Why?
I wouldn't want to live. I wouldn't. Being a burden to her and my kids, and just not being myself,
Yeah.
being the person that people knew me as,
Yeah.
would trouble me.
Yeah.
Plus I think I'd do cancer great. I'd be such an amazing cancer.
We have a DNR joke.
You
Stub your
totally
toes,
see
do not
it.
resuscitate.
I'm going to be an inspiration.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. All right. Last question. If you had to either live forever or die in the next 5 minutes, which one would it be? Who answered first last time? I don't know. I think yeah, okay, you.
No, I answered first last time. You go ahead.
No,
Go.
you didn't.
No, go. I was like,
Die in the next
Terminal
5 minutes
cancer.
or live forever? Oh, I'd live forever. I have so much more to offer. So we have a joke that our marriage is gonna last 50 years, and our 50th wedding anniversary, we're going to make the announcement that we're getting divorced, because at that point I'll be 80 and I'll be in my prime, and, and 50 years is plenty.
Yeah, right.
it's not death do us part. It's like 50 good years. I'm going to give you 50 good years.
So yeah, live forever. So if I live forever, woo.
He's only got 50 with me, so
Right.
after that he's going to just go out and
Think of all the marriages he could have after
That's
that.
right. Buy the Corvette.
5 minutes, thanks. I'll take the next minute. Have fun.
Is that your final answer? 5
That
minutes?
is. I don't want to live forever.
Yeah.
This is one of our big differences. I'm very morbid. He is very much not.
I don't like
You're
fuck-
morbid?
Like,
Oh yeah.
I
You're morbid like Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
Morbid.
but I think of death like first thing, like whenever I hear 3 songs by Sting on the radio, right? I'll change station, I'll hear 3 songs. I'm like, oh my God, Sting died. This is terrible. I check Twitter. Did Sting die? R.I.P. Sting, because I imagine that like, oh, they're all playing this. It's not just coincidence. They're all playing because
Must be a reason.
all the stations are doing tribute to Sting.
Yeah.
My people don't talk about death.
Yeah.
We talk about life. It was very challenging marrying into her family, which is half her family is kind of old Midwest Italian. And
talk about
they talk
death.
about death all the time.
Really? But there's something about talking about death, right? There's like this grounding.
I think so.
No, they're like scanning the obituaries. Hey, Aunt Bibby died. Like, oy.
My parents both read the obituaries. My
Yeah,
mom did.
it's more about that. It's not like cathartic. It's like they're just talking about people who have died.
Oh, my mom used to always tell me, like, well, when I die, you can have this, this, and this. And,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he's like, oh, gross. This is horrible. Why are you talking about that? But sure enough, when she died,
All the girls knew what they got.
we know what we all knew. My sister got her wedding ring, and I got these earrings, and, my
Someone got the silverware, and yeah.
I'm glad you guys finally acknowledged the difference between the two of
Yeah,
you. at the end
that's
of
probably
the
the biggest
show.
difference.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for our interview with Rachel and Greg, folks. Thanks for listening. And special thanks to Shure Microphones, who donated their brand new MV51 model to us. It's specially made for podcasters, and I'm using it at this very moment. I've always been a big fan of Shure mics, so I'm kind of geeking out on this right now. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that. Please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. We're on a mission to crush shame, as you may know, and every penny really helps at this stage. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director and my one and only is Aubrey Pick. Thanks once again to our guests, Rachel and Greg. Guys, barbecue time. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.